past 5 p.m. across India, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I am Tanvita Neja. And for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in London, Ollie Barrett. Good evening, Ollie, from New Delhi.
Hello there, Tanvi. It's just gone 12:30 p.m. here in London, 1:30 p.m. across Central Europe. Coming up in the next half an hour, the latest from India's election. Vladimir Putin is sworn in again, and an update on the crisis in Gaza. First, the headlines.
Brisk polling recorded despite the summer heat across 93 constituencies in the third phase of India's polls. Voter turnout highest in West Bengal and Assam so far. Israeli forces take control of the Gaza side of the Rafah crossing bordering Egypt. Mid-level Israeli team heads to Cairo to assess Hamas's position on the truce. Russia's Vladimir Putin addresses a tough period for the nation as he takes the presidential oath for the fifth time today for a new 6-year term. French president seeks to charm Chinese President Xi Jinping into trade and foreign policy concessions on day 2 of his visit. Xi backs Macron's call for global truce during the Paris Olympics. So up first, news from India. Voting for the third phase of the lower house elections in 93 constituencies spread over 11 states and union territories is nearing its end. Polling began at 7 in the morning and will close at 6 p.m. local time. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah were among the early voters. Voting is taking place in 25 seats in Gujarat, 11 seats in Maharashtra, 10 seats in Uttar Pradesh, 14 of Karnataka, 7 in Chhattisgarh, 9 seats in Madhya Pradesh, 5 in Bihar, 4 each in Assam and West Bengal, and 2 seats in Goa and Union Territories of Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu. Over 1,300 candidates are vying for victory in the third phase, with 120 of them being women. So brisk polling has been recorded so far across several states. This is the phase 3 of India's general elections that is taking place today. So the voter turnout for phase 3 of the general elections at 3 p.m. local time stands at 50.71%. And if we see the state-wise and UT-wise data, the state of Assam has recorded 63.08% turnout, 46.69% for eastern state of Bihar. Chhattisgarh has witnessed 58.19% voter turnout till 3 p.m. local time. In the Union Territory of Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu, 52.43% turnout was recorded, while Goa had 61.39% voter turnout. Gujarat recorded 47.03% voter turnout. Karnataka recorded 54.2% voter turnout, and Madhya Pradesh recorded 54.09% voter turnout. The state of Maharashtra had 42.63% to be precise, and Uttar Pradesh, the largest state in terms of population, recorded 46.78% voter turnout so far. And if we talk of the state of West Bengal, it is leading in the voter turnout tally. It is standing at 63.11% voter turnout. These figures are till 3 p.m. local time. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi exercised his franchise at the Nishan Higher Secondary School in Ahmedabad, which falls under the Gandhinagar Lok Sabha seat in the western Indian state of Gujarat. It is the seat from where Home Minister Amit Shah is contesting. Gujarat is a key electoral battleground with 26 parliamentary seats, 25 of which are up for grabs in the third phase of these general elections. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that India's election process, election management are examples for democracies of the world. He said the world's biggest universities should do a case study on it.
हम लोगों ने देश में भारत की चुनावी प्रक्रियाएं कैसी है, चुनावी मैनेजमेंट कैसा है और दुनिया के लोकतंत्र के लिए ये बहुत ही बड़ा सीखने योग्य एग्जाम्पल है। दुनिया की बड़ी बड़ी यूनिवर्सिटी ने केस स्टडी करना चाहिए। आज दुनिया में करीब 64 कंट्रीज में चुनाव है, उन सबका कंपैरिजन करना चाहिए। और ये वर्ष एक प्रकार से लोकतंत्र का उत्सव न सिर्फ भारत में, पूरी दुनिया में है। और भारत ने दुनिया में जो भी अच्छी चीजें हैं वो चुनावी व्यवस्था में विकसित की है। और मैं मानता हूं कि इलेक्शन कमीशन इसके लिए बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन का अधिकारी है। आप सब मीडिया के मित्र तो अब भारत में 900 से ज्यादा टीवी चैनल्स हैं, 5000 से ज्यादा दैनिक अखबार निकलते हैं और वो तो पूरी तरह चुनाव के रंग में रंगे जाते हैं। और इसलिए हर एक का प्रयास और यही मंथन है जो लोकतंत्र को भी मजबूत करता है और देश को भी मजबूत सरकार देता है। तो मैं इसमें योगदान देने वाले एक लोकतंत्र के महायज्ञ में जो भी जितनी आहुति दे रहा है, सब अभिनंदन के अधिकारी हैं।
And now to feel India's poll pulse, we are now connecting with Gautam Roy, DD India's correspondent. He's joining us live from Murshidabad in West Bengal. Gautam, has voting been peaceful so far across West Bengal?
Well, it's all a relative term really, Tanvi. If you look at West Bengal and the kind of history of violence that it has had during elections, one could say that has been peaceful. There have been some sporadic incidents, a couple of crude bombs going off in Murshidabad, in some of the areas that are known to have such incidents during elections, much worse during last year's three-tier panchayat elections. So comparatively, since there have been no fatalities, no major incident has been reported, one could say that is by and large peaceful. Some other incidents have also taken place in Murshidabad. The Congress and Left Alliance candidate Mohammad Salim, who's also CPM Politburo member, had some altercations with TMC booth members. He claimed to have apprehended a fake poll agent as well, so that led to some heated arguments. We've seen also in South Malda the BJP candidate Dhananjay Ghosh clashing with a TMC booth president. Those videos have gone viral as well. So one could say that there has been some heat apart from the heat that is all around us because of this being summer in May. But apart from that, one would say that one had kept one's fingers crossed through the day that no major incident occurs, and that's what has happened, which is a big reason to be thankful for.
Indeed. Let's also now connect with Amritpal Singh. Amritpal Singh joins us from Uttar Pradesh, India. Amritpal, as we are reporting till 3 p.m, overall voting percentage has crossed 50%, but Uttar Pradesh seems to be lagging behind. So what is the latest that you're seeing on the ground?
Well, Uttar Pradesh is polling brisk now. I mean, in the evening, the queues have really picked up. Where I am, it is well over 50% in Sambal. So I think by the end of the polling, 6 o'clock, the polling closes. Only the people who get inside the campus of the polling booth can and have queued up can vote till whatever time the queue finishes. So my sense is that it will easily cross the 60% mark, which was it was 60% voting was witnessed here in 2019. There was a sharp dip in phase 2, but if we extrapolate the amount of voting that has taken place so far over the 10 constituencies that are going to polls, it is not a bad showing. It will surely cross the last time's figure. So there is no dip really here. Tanvi.
All right. Thank you, Gautam Roy and Amritpal Singh. We do hope that the numbers are higher in this phase. Thank you very much for joining in. On to Russia now. President Vladimir Putin was sworn in for a 5th term in office today. The 71-year-old has ruled Russia since the turn of the century. My colleague Ollie Barrett is in London. He takes it forward from me here and gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, 24 years on, a record 5th term for Putin?
That's right, Tanvi. Vladimir Putin has been sworn in for a new 6-year term as Russia's president at a Kremlin ceremony. He won a landslide victory in a presidential election in March, more than 2 years after he sent tens of thousands of troops into Ukraine. The United States and other Western countries have stayed away from Vladimir Putin's ceremony today because they say his re-election was flawed because voters were not given a real alternative. That's an allegation rejected by Moscow. Vladimir Putin says Russia is open to developing relations with other countries that he describes as the world's majority.
We have been and will continue to be open to strengthening good relations with all countries that see Russia as a reliable and honest partner. We do not refuse dialogue with Western countries. The choice is theirs, whether they intend to continue to try to restrain Russia's development, to continue a policy of aggression, continuous pressure on our country for years, or to seek a path to cooperation and peace.
And Russia's government was dissolved on Tuesday in accordance with the constitution after President Putin was sworn in for that new term. The government's dissolution was announced in an order signed by Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin. The formation of a new government will start with Vladimir Putin putting forward the name of the next Prime Minister for approval by the State Duma, the lower house of parliament. And India's Dasha Chernyshova joins me now live from Moscow. Dasha, what do we expect Vladimir Putin's 5th term to look like?
Well, indeed, the Russian president has taken yet another oath to serve the Russian people on Tuesday, and the understanding from the speech that he gave on his inauguration is that Moscow will be focusing on the issues related to security, Russia's place in the world, as well as domestic stability. Having said that, the operation in Ukraine does seem to be the top concern for the Russian president, and the experts we've been talking to here in Moscow suggest that if the operation ends within the next 6 years, within the next presidential term, then obviously that will be deemed successful. Now, the Russian president has said that he will be guided by the interests of the Russian people, and that one of the paramount tasks for him is to serve to the well-being of these people. Having said that, he also stressed that there are many challenges that the Russian society is facing. Keep in mind, Moscow is facing the most significant demographic crunch with the shortage of qualified labor force in the country. For this, the Russian president has announced the establishment of several national projects that will be dealing with those issues. So in the next 6 years, we understand the presidential course will not be changing significantly. It will still be focusing on the security of the country, but also on the well-being of the Russian citizens. Interestingly, President Vladimir Putin also talked about the Western countries, saying that Moscow is interested, including in the security dialogue with those Western countries. But also he noted that the Russian interests have to be preserved and have to be taken into account. All that is taking place as Moscow has been repeatedly talking about the establishment of the so-called multipolar world order. And with regard to that, Moscow is stressing it is willing to work with the world majority, but obviously if the Russian interests are kept in mind. So the Russian course is not expected to change significantly, but we will be also given some sort of understanding as to the changes possibly taking place in Russia after the new government is formed. And to remind you, the government has been dissolved. We're yet to hear the new nomination for the post of the Prime Minister, and then we are expecting to learn what cabinet reshuffles will be taking place.
Okay, Dasha, thank you. Israel's military says its forces have taken operational control of the Gaza side of the Rafah crossing, which borders Egypt. The IDF says forces have been conducting targeted strikes against Hamas in eastern Rafah, from where people and some international organizations have already been evacuated. The flow of aid through the Rafah crossing has been halted due to Israeli operations in the region. Hamas says Israel's incursion at the Rafah crossing is aimed to undermine ceasefire efforts. A team of mid-ranking Israeli officials is expected to travel to Cairo on Tuesday to assess whether Hamas can be persuaded to change its latest ceasefire proposal. Israel says the proposal as it currently stands is unacceptable. On Monday, Hamas agreed to a Gaza ceasefire plan put forward by mediators. Israel's military spokesperson says all proposals are being examined seriously.
We examine every answer and response in the most serious manner and are exhausting every possibility regarding negotiations and returning the hostages to their homes as soon as possible as a main mission. In parallel, we are still operating in the Gaza Strip and will continue to do so.
DD India's Sarah Coates sent us this report from Tel Aviv.
The Israeli military has just released an operational update saying that its forces have captured the Palestinian side of the Rafah crossing down in the southern part of the Gaza Strip, saying that its forces have killed some 20 gunmen and located 3 significant tunnel shafts in overnight raids. With this vital humanitarian crossing, the Rafah border crossing now closed pending further notice. Now, this, of course, comes just hours after Hamas said that it had accepted a deal for a ceasefire brokered by the Egyptians and the Qataris, which saw real jubilation on the streets of Gaza. But that was certainly short-lived, with people now this morning once again fleeing the eastern part of Rafah. Meanwhile, the Israeli establishment says it is today sending a delegation of Israelis to Cairo to try and restart the ceasefire and hostage talks. In Tel Aviv, Sarah Coates reporting for DD India.
French President Emmanuel Macron has welcomed Chinese President Xi Jinping in the Pyrenees Mountains on Tuesday for a second day of meetings. One of the French president's main objectives for the visit is to convince Xi Jinping to reduce perceived trade imbalances between the two regions, with better access for European firms in China and less subsidies going to Chinese exporters. In a joint press conference, French President Macron thanked Xi Jinping for backing his idea of a truce across all conflicts, including Russia-Ukraine, during the upcoming Paris Olympics.
As a permanent member of the Security Council of the United Nations and as a responsible country, China is ready to work with France to take the Paris Olympics as an opportunity to call for a global truce during the Paris Olympic Games.
Sadiq Khan is starting an historic third term as Mayor of London. He won the second largest majority in the history of the London mayoralty in last week's election. He's signed the declaration of office and says he will focus on redoubling efforts to reducing violence against women and reforming London's police service. And with that, I'll hand back to Tanvi in the studio.
Thank you very much, Ollie. Ollie Barrett joining us all from London. Still to come on this edition of DD India Global. Floods in Brazil wreak havoc, leaving about 150,000 people displaced.
Hype versus facts. In-depth news and analysis with experts who will help you decide why this election matters. DD India is the main election headquarters with numbers most accurate, data most reliable, and viewership across the platforms. Stay tuned to the Great Indian Election only on weekdays at 8:30 p.m. IST and 1500 hours GMT.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. Back to India. The top commander of the terrorist group, the Resistance Front, Basit Dar, and 2 other terrorists have been killed in an encounter at the Radwani area of South Kashmir's Kulgam district on Tuesday.
किया गया तो वहां से अंदर से फायर आया और उसके बाद जो है एक ऑपरेशन स्टार्ट हुआ। इसमें मारे गए जो टेररिस्ट हैं उसमें एक आइडेंटिफिकेशन बासित डार जो टीआरएफ का ए कैटेगरी का वो है, 2021 से वो एक्टिव है और कम से कम 18 जो मामले हैं यहाँ पर और शहर श्रीनगर में जो कि पुलिस पर्सनल, सिविलियंस और माइनॉरिटी किलिंग में इन्वॉल्व था।
7th May marks Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore's 163rd birth anniversary. A polymath and India's first Nobel laureate in literature, Tagore's legacy continues to shape literature, music and art across the globe. DD India's Shreya Mukherjee takes a look at the life of this visionary.
A Nobel laureate, Kavi Guru Rabindranath Tagore has inspired generations. A renowned poet, writer, painter, musician, educationist and social reformer, Tagore wore many hats with grace. Born on the 7th of May 1861 in Kolkata's Jorashako Thakurbari, Tagore was the youngest son of Rabindranath Tagore, a prominent figure in the Bengal Renaissance, and Sharoda Devi. The Bard of Bengal was the first Indian to win the Nobel Prize in 1913 for his book of poems Gitanjali. While he wrote the Indian national anthem Jana Gana Mana in 1911, his song Amar Shonar Bangla is the national anthem of Bangladesh. In his lifetime, Kavi Guru composed over 2200 songs and wrote several novels. Being in the forefront of the Swadeshi movement during the partition of Bengal in 1905, Tagore took active participation in the Quit India movement. It was Tagore who first addressed Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi as the Mahatma. The polymath also shared a special friendship with Albert Einstein, the father of modern-day physics. In his fight for freedom against the British rule, Tagore emphasized on education for society and nation building. He established the Vishwa Bharati University in 1921 that mirrors his ideals. On Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore's 163rd birth anniversary, let's celebrate the legend and his enduring legacy. Shreya Mukherjee's report for DD India.
And we now take a look at other stories making news around the world. Japan's self-defense forces continued with the rescue efforts as wildfires burnt down 135 hectares of land. A man in his 70s suffered burns on his legs. The area had been experiencing dry weather for a long time with unusually hot temperatures in recent weeks, which is suspected to have caused these fires. In South Africa, rescue efforts continue after an under-construction building collapsed in the city of George. At least 5 deaths have been reported so far, while dozens still remain trapped under the rubble. 26 on-site workers have been brought out, while 51 others are still unaccounted for. Satellite images captured from Brazil's Rio Grande do Sul give a shocking picture of the extent of devastation in the aftermath of the floods that have claimed 85 lives so far. More than 130 people are still missing after the disastrous floods. Another spell of light showers have been predicted by the local weather forecaster that may pick up by the weekend. And dressed in beautiful attires based on the theme Garden of Time, celebrities were clicked gracing the green and white carpeted entrance to the lavish annual Met Gala in New York. Several prominent Indians, including Alia Bhatt, actor, Natasha Poonawalla, businesswoman, marked their attendance at the Met Gala. An invitation-only event, the Met Gala marks the opening of the Costume Institute's annual fashion exhibit. This year is showcasing exhibits called Sleeping Beauties, Reawakening Fashion. The event is seeing Brad Bunny, Chris Hemsworth, Zendaya, Jennifer Lopez as co-chairs of the fundraiser dinner. So with all that glitz and glamour of the Met Gala, we wind up this edition of DD India Global. To let us know your thoughts on the news of the day, you can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates on our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. So we'll be back with more news as it breaks air on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.